Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive,
Glad to be back.
where we like to take an idea and really kind of dig into it.
Yeah, explore it.
So today we're looking at something that I think is super relevant to everybody listening,
Mm-hmm.
how the language that we use impacts how we're perceived and how well we communicate.
I think this will be a good one.
Yeah, and so we're going to be looking at a podcast that we found that talked about smart phrases.
Yeah, ways to speak that make you sound more persuasive and articulate in English.
And we're going to go through 10 of their specific phrases.
We are.
Really unpack why they work and then show you how you can start using them immediately. So
Right.
I think this will be something that you can listen to this episode and then tomorrow.
Put it into practice.
Yeah, go and be more persuasive and articulate.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So it's not just about sounding smart, is it?
No.
It's about communicating clearly and powerfully,
Yeah, it's about impact.
having an impact.
That's it.
Yeah, being intentional with your words so that your message really lands.
So should we jump into the first one?
Let's do it.
All right, so this first one is, let's examine this from a different perspective.
Okay.
And they suggested using this instead of just saying let's think about this differently.
Right. More straightforward.
Yeah. So why examine?
Well, I think examine suggests a more critical and structured approach. Right? Think it's something we do all the time, right?
Yeah.
Constantly, often casually.
Yeah.
Whereas examine suggests a deliberate process
Yeah.
of really looking closely at something from different angles. And so I think it shows thoroughness and can definitely enhance your professional image.
It makes you sound smarter.
It does.
Yeah, for sure.
And it might also tap into our desire for rigor.
Oh, interesting.
It seems more intellectual.
Yeah.
It's more of like an intellectual approach.
So they gave this example of how you can use it in a work setting.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I don't agree, you can say, that's an interesting take. Let's examine this from a different perspective, which feels so much less.
Confrontational.
Yeah.
It's more collaborative.
And I also like that it kind of suggests that you're going to put in work.
Yeah, you're not just going to shut it down.
Yeah.
You're open to it.
Yeah.
You're going to put in the work to understand their perspective
Exactly.
and really try to come to a solution together.
It's not just a no, it's like a no,
Yeah.
but let's figure this out.
Exactly.
Okay, so the second phrase that they suggest
Okay.
is the evidence suggests that.
Right.
And they say to use this instead of the more personal, I think this is true.
Okay.
So what makes that first option sound so much more convincing?
I think if we connect this to how we as people process information,
Mm-hmm.
when you start with the evidence suggests,
Yeah.
it makes you sound more objective.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
implies that your conclusion isn't just based on a gut feeling
Right.
or a personal bias.
It sounds like you've done your research.
It does.
Yeah.
And there's data to support it.
Yeah, you're not just pulling this out of thin air. Yeah.
And I think we all tend to trust information that seems factual
Of course.
and logical
Yeah.
more
yeah.
than something that's just like, well, I think.
So the example that they gave in the podcast was instead of saying, I believe coffee is good for you, you could say, the evidence suggests that moderate coffee consumption has cognitive benefits.
Right. Much more convincing.
Yeah. Do you find that using phrases like this actually changes how people respond to your ideas?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it really shifts the focus from just your individual viewpoint
Mhm.
to something that's kind of more universal.
It sounds like a fact.
It does.
Yeah.
Evidence. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's super useful when you need to build a strong case
Yeah.
or you're trying to persuade others.
It's like in a debate or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even just like a casual conversation
Yeah.
where you want people to actually listen to your ideas.
Okay, so listener, if you're out there trying to be more persuasive and articulate, you might want to think about using this phrase. The evidence suggests that.
I like it.
All right, so the third phrase that they suggest
Okay.
is to put it succinctly.
Okay.
And this is instead of saying, let me sum this or let me summarize.
Okay.
So why succinctly?
Well, succinctly implies efficiency and clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about being brief.
Okay.
It's about conveying the essence of something in a clear and concise manner.
Right, to the point.
Yeah, and it shows that you respect the listener's time.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. You're not going to waste their time.
Yeah.
And it also shows that you have a command of the subject.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting how one word can do all of that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Powerful.
So their example for this was, to put it succinctly, time management is about prioritization, not just efficiency.
Right.
And it does make it sound like you've really considered what is the core message here.
Yeah, you've thought about it.
Yeah.
And you're giving them the meat of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
No fluff.
So you're extracting the key takeaways.
Yeah.
So this is valuable in any context, really.
I think so.
Yeah. And listener, if you're thinking about how you can start using this tomorrow,
Yeah.
think about how you can deliver your summaries in a way that is like really impactful and memorable.
Yeah, so people walk away remembering what you said.
Yeah, like, oh, they really got to the point there.
Exactly.
Okay, so the fourth phrase is a little bit more involved.
Okay, let's hear it.
So that's a valid point, and here's another angle to consider.
Okay.
And they suggested this as a more diplomatic alternative to just saying, I disagree.
Right.
So what makes this so effective?
I think what's brilliant about this phrase
Yeah.
is that it validates the other person's point before you introduce a different perspective.
Right.
Right, so you're saying that's valid. So they know that you've listened.
You heard them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And that builds rapport.
Makes them more likely to want to listen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, but here's another angle to consider.
Right. So it's an addition, not a contradiction.
It is.
Yeah, I like that.
Much smoother.
So smooth. Way better than just being like, nope, you're wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was their example for this?
They said, that's a valid point. And here's another angle to consider. Perhaps productivity isn't just about time, but also energy management.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. It's a much smoother way to introduce a new idea.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think, for you, the listener, this is a great way to disagree with somebody.
Yeah.
Without making them feel bad.
Without being a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. And you can still contribute your own thoughts.
You can still get your point across.
Exactly.
Okay, so the fifth phrase is, the implications of this are significant.
Yeah.
And this is, instead of just saying, this is important.
Right.
So what does implications do for that statement?
Implications suggest that you've thought about it more deeply.
Okay.
Right? It's like you've analyzed it.
Yeah, you're not just saying this is important. You're like, let's look at why this is important.
Exactly. And what the consequences might be, both positive and negative.
It sounds like you've really considered all the angles.
You have.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
thinking critically,
Yeah.
and you're encouraging other people to think critically as well.
You're bringing other people up to your level.
Hopefully, that's the goal.
Okay, so the example for this one is, the implications of remote work are significant not just for companies, but for society as a whole.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've really thought about it on a macro level.
You have. You've zoomed out.
Yeah.
And you're not just thinking about yourself and your own little bubble.
Yeah.
You're thinking about the bigger picture.
So, listener, you can use this phrase to communicate the importance of your ideas
Yeah.
in a way that makes people really kind of stop and think, oh, wow, this is important.
Right.
Okay, so the sixth phrase
Okay.
is, that's a compelling argument.
I like that one.
Yeah, and this is instead of saying, that's a good point, which we hear all the time.
Yeah.
So what does compelling bring to the table?
Well, I think compelling suggests that an argument is not just good, but it's persuasive.
Mm-hmm.
It's well-reasoned and it's convincing.
So it's a good point, plus, plus.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like a good point on steroids.
It really highlights the strength and the clarity of the other person's reasoning.
It does.
Okay, so the example was, that's a compelling argument for investing in AI-driven learning tools.
Nice.
It does sound like you're really impressed with their reasoning.
You are.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, you've really thought this through.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
So, listener, if you're in a conversation and somebody says something that's really impressive,
Yeah.
you can use this to really acknowledge them.
To show them that you're listening.
Yeah.
And that you're impressed
Yeah.
by their thinking.
Okay, so phrase number 7 is, in essence, what this means is. And they're suggesting using this instead of basic, which can sound a little...
Informal.
Yeah, or like...
Basic.
Yeah, ironically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in essence, why? In essence.
Well, in essence, signals that you're about to explain something in a very clear and concise way.
Okay.
So you've taken this complex idea
Mm-hmm.
and you've distilled it down to its most essential element.
So you've got to the core of it.
You have.
Yeah.
You're giving them the heart of the matter.
Like you've really thought about it and now you're going to explain it.
Exactly.
Okay, so the example they gave was, in essence, what this means is that language shapes our thoughts and decisions.
Right.
That does sound more authoritative than basically language affects how we think.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, listener, if you're trying to communicate something complex,
Mm-hmm.
try using this phrase to lead into your explanation.
It's a good one.
Okay, so phrase number 8
Okay.
is there's a nuanced distinction between,
I like that one.
yeah, and this is instead of saying they're kind of different.
Right, which is much more vague.
Yeah, so nuanced, why nuanced? Well, because a lot of times the really critical differences between things are in the subtle details.
Right. It's not always black and white.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so when you use the phrase by a tent, there's a nuanced distinction between
Yeah.
you're showing that you understand those subtleties.
Like you're really paying attention.
You are.
Yeah.
And you're capable of really precise thinking.
So it makes you sound really smart.
It does.
Yeah.
Like you've really thought about this.
So the example was there's a nuanced distinction between being busy and being productive.
Right.
And you're right. It does kind of make you want to think, okay, well, what's the difference?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, what are those subtle differences?
Exactly.
So, listener, you can use this phrase to really highlight your understanding of complex issues.
Yeah, show that you're paying attention to the details
Yeah.
and that you're a critical thinker.
Okay, so the ninth phrase is it's a matter of perspective.
Hmm.
And they suggest using this instead of it depends.
Okay.
So why perspective?
Well, I think perspective acknowledges that there isn't always a single right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it encourages open-mindedness.
Yeah.
And I think that's super valuable.
Especially nowadays.
Especially nowadays.
When everybody thinks that they're right.
Exactly. And so it allows you to explore ideas
From different angles.
from different angles.
Yeah. Without being judgmental.
Exactly.
So their example for this one was success is a matter of perspective. What's fulfilling for one person might not be for another.
Right.
And it's so true.
It is.
Yeah. So, listener, this is a great phrase to use if you're trying to navigate disagreements.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a situation where you need to kind of like see both sides or you need to like,
Find some common ground.
yeah, acknowledge different viewpoints.
Exactly.
Okay. And the 10th and final phrase
Let's hear it.
is I appreciate your insight.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And this is instead of that was interesting.
Right.
So what makes I appreciate your insight so much better?
I think it shows genuine gratitude.
Okay.
Right. You're not just acknowledging that they said something.
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, I got something valuable from them.
Yeah, you're really listening.
You are.
And you're getting something out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that fosters good relationships.
Makes people feel heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it encourages further conversation.
Yeah, I'd much rather have a conversation with somebody who is like really listening to what I was saying.
The two.
Yeah, than just like, yeah, that was interesting.
And then moves on. Yeah.
Okay, so their example for this one was, I appreciate your insight on this. It's given me a lot to think about.
I like that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really engaged.
It does.
Yeah.
You're present.
Okay, so listener, this is a great phrase to use to strengthen your connections with other people
Yeah.
and to show that you're really present and engaged in the conversation.
For sure.
So we've gone through 10 phrases,
We have.
and I think this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has.
It's really highlighted how we can be more strategic with our language.
Yeah, I think it shows that it's not just about what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly.
That makes a big difference.
It's like that old saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So hopefully everybody listening has gotten a few good nuggets out of this.
Yeah, definitely.
And think about, like, what are your communication goals?
Yeah.
And how can you use these phrases, or even just one or two of these phrases, to enhance the way that you communicate?
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye.